Hello and welcome to Gorshin's 11. My name is Timothy Connolly,
And my name is Richard Woods.
and we are going to start off this pilot episode of ours with a segment called Topics from the Tropics.
Oh,
And
you mean it's already topics from the tropics, Tim?
it is
How
already
could that
Topics from
be?
the Tropics.
Was I not quizzed on this? Wait, I have to put my tropical shirt on for a moment. Hang on.
Okay, folks, you hang
My
on for
God,
just a
I
quick
can't
moment.
believe that I would not even have remembered to put my tropical shirt on. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, there it
Richard
is.
will be right back, I promise.
Oh, wait, there's my tropical shirt. Oh, wait, here it is. And there I am. Oh, look at me. Oh, I'm
Fancy.
so tropical. And Tim, what would the tropics be without me being on a desert or a beautiful island? How about this? Does this work for
Hey,
you?
now that's what I
There we
call
go.
production
Oh,
value.
yes. I'm
This
already feeling
podcast has production value.
I'm already feeling like I have sunstroke because I'm very, very light skinned and I don't have any SPF 600 on. So if I die during this, it's because of you taking me to a tropical island right out of the gate. So there's that.
Fair enough. And if this segment expires because we run out of time, it might be because
Yeah.
you had to go and look for your shirt, but we'll see how it
Listen,
goes here.
I had to also find my feet because I couldn't walk to find it without them. So there's that.
Well, you are a young man and all that, so
I
I
am,
understand.
I'm many things.
Well, topics from the tropics. Here we are. This
Yeah,
year, can you believe it? This is the 50th anniversary year of the Elvis Presley Aloha from Hawaii concert that was broadcast live via satellite to more than a few viewers, if I'm not mistaken.
that's right. Yep, it was the first worldwide satellite broadcast ever done, and the only place it wasn't shown live was in the United States, believe it or not, because they felt it would interfere with the Super Bowl and Elvis on tour, which is playing in the movies. So NBC did their version of it, 90-minute cut on April 4th, 1973, and this was originally done on January 14th, 1973. So there's
You
that.
know, they did a really good job with that concert from a technical and editing standpoint. From what everything from that I could tell, it went off without a hitch,
Well,
which was
well,
kind of
if you also
amazing.
remember, they also did a rehearsal show the night before, which was released later on, about 20 years
They
later, as the
did.
ultimate Aloha. Because
That's right.
just in case there were some technical problems and there was a problem with the live feed, they were going to run the rehearsal show as a live show because of that, as a backup. So they had all their stuff straightened out and ready to go for sure.
That's right. We ended up getting an album, The Alternate Aloha, out of
That's
that
right.
rehearsal.
I did. I had that on cassette first back in the day, and then I got it on CD.
Oh,
True
very
story.
nice. Very,
Yeah.
very nice. Yeah, so 50 years. Wow. It's amazing to look back on it now, 50 years from then, and to think about what other major concert events have happened broadcast live from Hawaii that could even hold a candle to this one that the King of Rock and Roll did.
Oh,
And I'm hard
absolutely.
pressed to even think of one, to tell you the truth.
No,
He
no,
set the bar so high for everybody.
he
There's
did.
really there's
And
just no chance, right?
Elvis was at the top of his game again, after the movies had stopped in 1969 and went back to doing live performances full time with his Vegas stint at the International, 1969
How
in
great was that
August, I
band
believe
he
it
had
was.
on stage with him for the Aloha concert?
Oh yeah, the TCB band. Yep, that was his touring band from basically 69 to 77. A couple of people came in and out for certain gigs, but that was the core of the band. You got James Burton, Ronnie Tutt, John Wilkinson,
JD
Joe,
and the Stamps.
yeah, JD Sumner and the Stamps Quartet, the Sweet Inspirations, Kathy Westmoreland as the soprano high voice singer.
That's
Of
right.
course, of course, the guy that handed him his water and his scarves. His name was Charlie Hodge.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
right.
John Wilkinson, rhythm guitar,
And Joe Gershow,
the Joe Gershow Orchestra.
orchestra.
That's right. I
Yeah.
often wondered how large of a piece orchestra that was. I never looked into how large it was, but it
Well,
certainly sounds large when you
it
listen
is.
to
Well,
the recordings.
if you watch the movie again, you'll see how big it is. It's got to be at least 25 people in it. It's got to be.
I wonder if I have that on DVD. I probably still do,
Yeah, you could probably just probably get a clip of it on YouTube too, of just anything you wanted to see, like American
right?
Trilogy or Big
Right?
Hunk of Love.
Right? But if I'm hankering for a good polk salad Annie, I'm not going to find it because I don't think he
No,
busted it
you
out that
shan't
night.
find that on Aloha from Hawaii. But that, I think he did do that on the Elvis on Tour movie, though. That one I think is on there.
Yes, I do believe you are correct.
1972. That was from the spring tour in 72. In April, they recorded a bunch of shows on the East Coast, which is cool.
What a great time to have seen him in concert.
Yeah, they recently came out with a box set of all of the board mixes of the 72 on tour sessions. All those shows were recorded in full, obviously, because of the movie. And they recently RCA, I think it's one of the Legends releases or one of their back catalog things for Elvis collectors, Follow That Dream or one of those. They came out with a whole box set of the 1972 spring tour of all those concerts. So you Elvis fans out there like Tim and I, check those out, man. I already have them and they're fantastic, man. The
I
quality's
got to
great.
get them. I'm adding that to my list, my
You
good old
should.
wish list.
You should.
And also, by the way, speaking of milestone anniversaries, this year is the 40th anniversary year of
Yeah.
Stephen King's novel, Christine. It's
Yeah.
also the 40th anniversary year of the John Carpenter film adaptation of that book.
You
Isn't
know,
it
you stole
interesting
my
how quick
thunder.
that
I was
film?
going to say the exact same thing. I mean, I can't think of too many books that have come out made into a motion picture that were released within months of the actual book being written. That was
It
one of the
is
points I was going to bring
strange.
up. It's very. I don't remember another time where I could say that. Like we're talking about Elvis of the first worldwide satellite television broadcast. I don't know of a movie that was made after a major novel by a major writer like Stephen King that came out, within
That
months of
was
the movie.
fast. I remember something similar when Arthur C. Clarke was writing 2001: A Space Odyssey and Stanley Kubrick was making the film. Both Arthur and Stanley would oftentimes compare notes because the book wasn't anywhere near finished yet at the time Kubrick began production on the film.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Clark wanted the astronauts to go out to Saturn. Kubrick had them only go out as far as Jupiter. It was a different experience if you read the book and the film. But anyway, there's another example, I guess, of a
Yeah.
film all of a sudden appearing when the book is still so fresh, but it's not quite the same because King's novel was published and done already
Well, yeah.
by
And
the time
obviously,
I
yeah,
think Don Phillips was the guy who wrote the screenplay for the Christine film. And I don't know how closely they were working hand in hand with King on all that, but damn, quick turnaround time. You never see that these days from book
sure.
to screen.
Back in the
Um,
day, I watched that movie on HBO because it was on like every 15 minutes when you were a kid, remember?
uh-huh. So you
Certain
probably
movies
saw it
like
a couple of times,
they
right?
played infinitum on loop every like okay, it's premiering this month, and because they only HBO back in the 80s only had like a
I know.
handful of movies they could release as premiere releases, you'd see it like
I know.
50 times in a month.
No wonder you weren't sleeping so well those days. That movie was scary, dude.
Yeah, man. The old
And I
Plymouth
just finished
Fury.
reading that book for the very first time um, earlier this month. So it's all
Really?
still fresh in my mind.
Yes.
And just amazing how different it is from the film. I mean, obviously the book is 525 pages long. It's a big boy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the film is what, an hour and a half, an hour 45, something like
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean that's where you want to cut it to. You don't want to go too long, especially something that's geared towards teenagers. Back then, you don't want to
Right.
have a 2 hour and 20 minute film where they're going to walk out or get
No,
bored.
I know. But it's cool that we had both, and so anyway, happy anniversary to
Yeah,
Stephen King's Christine story, and also to Elvis Presley's Aloha from Hawaii concert.
the king of rock
Excellent
and
stuff.
roll.
Long live the king. And now, folks, it's time for our next big fun segment here on Gorshin's 11. And this next segment is called More Than You Should Know About Your Hosts.
Oh,
During
wow.
this segment, Richard and myself will be asking each other three questions, and
All
neither of
right.
us know what questions to expect here. So this
Now, now
could
what
be interesting.
I mean, what I have to do is show you my cool Ozzy and Lemmy shirt here. And then I
Oh,
have to take off my Aloha from Hawaii shirt because I'm no longer in the tropics.
the
So
tropics
here
was a
we
good
go.
time.
There's the boys, both giving you the finger. I feel the same way, all you listeners out there. So enjoy
Hi,
that.
Ozzy. Hi, Lemmy. Okay, now then, more than you should know about your hosts. Three questions. Richard,
Okay.
I'll
Who
ask you
wants?
a question first. You answer, and then you ask me a question, and we'll alternate. Are you ready?
Okay. All right.
You're ready. Okay. He thinks
I'm
he's ready,
I'm
folks.
I'm as ready as I'm going to be. Tim knows me pretty well, so it must be something fun.
All right. Question number one.
Yeah.
James Coburn, Lee Marvin, or Lee Van Cleef? That's your question, my friend. No
Oh,
context.
come on. You're talking about three of my favorite old action heroes. You okay? See, the no context. I mean, I love them all. I've seen so many of their films. Obviously, I mean, where do I even start? But if you're gonna ask me,
I
I
know it's a
guess,
long list.
yeah, I mean, I can't even really go into detail on that. I recommend anybody that loves great old gritty cinema. All three of those guys will have something that you will adore, you will love. It's just incredibly good stuff. But if in the context of the question, if I'm going to be asked to pick only one of those three people that I had to take, I'm going to take Lee Van Cleef. He out of those three, he's my favorite.
Interesting choice.
I
All
love
right,
all
then.
of them. I love all their films, but he's my favorite.
Well, there
Just,
you
just from
have
the
it,
good, the
folks.
bad, and
You
the
heard it
ugly,
here.
and
Lee Van Cleef.
spaghetti westerns and Escape from New York and all the movies he made on his own as like all these spaghetti westerns had nothing to do with Clint Eastwood back in the late 60s throughout the 70s, the early 70s. He was making like these Italian spaghetti westerns like one every like 6 months, and they're all amazingly good if you love him. So yeah, Lee Van Cleef.
Very good, folks. You heard it here first.
All right,
And now
Tim.
Richard has a question for me, and I don't know if
Yes,
I'm ready,
Tim.
but I'm going to give it a try.
Okay. Well, I got a couple of questions, but let's see. I'm gonna go in with one that I think a lot of your fans would like to know the answer to. What is your best memory of our time in the Suck It Easy band together?
My best memory of our time in the Suck It Easy band together occurred in the year 2003. I believe it was the middle of the month of May. And oh my God, that would make this the 20th anniversary month of this
Oh
memory.
my gosh, look at that coincidence.
I was a bit late arriving on stage, but the show had already begun. And you were on stage asking for me. We were supposed to open the show with Shamalama Ding Dong. And you were on stage before I was, and Becca was there, and Cat Woods was there. So all of our vocalists were in place, and the rest of the band was in place too, and everybody was just waiting for me. And you were calling me out from the backstage area, but you were doing it into the microphone so that the whole audience could hear you say things like, um, "Where's Tim Easy? Where's our founding father?" You may have gotten emails from this guy. It's all spam, so remember to report him to the spam police.
That definitely sounds like me.
And it was you, and that was 20 years ago this month. So thank you for that awesome memory. And that memory has been enshrined forever on our Suck It Easy Band box set that dropped in the year
Yes.
2006.
Yeah.
And that featured a lot of the cool live stuff that we did when you and I were rolling with the band during those early years of ours, 2002, 2003 specifically. That
Yeah.
was some
Good
magic
times.
right there. So there's your answer, and I hope it's a good one.
It was.
Excellent. Well, now I have another question for you.
Okay.
Which one of the numerous Paul is dead clues gave you the most chills?
Okay. That is a very easy one for me to answer, actually. At the end of Strawberry Fields Forever,
Oh, that one.
John says into the microphone, cranberry sauce
Yes.
a couple of times. But
However,
but the Paul is dead crew he said, I bury Paul. I bury Paul. That's what they would have you believe he was saying. And as you're a little kid listening to this, like I was on some like beat up small cassette player and listening to it, you couldn't make out cranberry sauce very clearly. I didn't have a high definition stereo system or anything to listen to. I'm listening to a little, a phonograph maybe, or one of those all in one little cassette decks we all had, like those Panasonic things.
mhm.
So as a kid, I'm like, I bury Paul. It's like it scared me a bit. I was like, wow.
How young of a kid are we talking about here? Were you at the time?
I was about, oh God, 8, 9 years old,
Oh,
maybe.
wow, that was kind of young. You were even aware at the time then that this was a Paul is dead clue?
Yeah, yeah, I was. You
How
know
did you
me.
get hip to the whole Paul is dead thing at such
Well,
a
you know
young
what it
age?
is, Tim. I don't remember that because it was a lifetime ago. But if people out there listening and watching know me, they know as soon as I get into something, I want to learn all about it. I'm very voracious when it comes to my knowledge of things I'm very interested in. And my life at that time was everything was the Beatles. Every record I would get would be, for every Christmas, every birthday was some sort of Beatles thing that a family member would give me, or I'd get money and I'd go buy a record from Record World or something.
Did you have a
So I don't.
Beatles lunchbox when you were a kid?
I had a Happy Days lunchbox when I
Oh,
was a kid.
that's even cooler.
I remember that one. I think I had a Peanuts lunchbox and a Happy Days. I remember those two. I don't. I probably had some others too, but I don't remember.
My lunchbox was a Dukes of Hazzard lunchbox.
Oh well, that was about the good old boys.
Yep.
They never
And
meaning no harm. I heard about that.
that's right. And okay, folks, well, that's the answer. The Paul is dead clue that gave Richard Woods the most chills
It
occurs
did.
at the end of the Strawberry Fields Forever song.
That's right.
And I'm surprised you went with that one, but there are so many, and certainly we can talk about that even just for hours all by itself.
Well, that
And
is one of my favorite songs that was ever written by the Beatles. I mean,
mine
it
too.
might be if you made me choose one, it might be my favorite of all time, but it's definitely top five on any given day.
Oh, it's a great arrangement. I agree.
No
And
other song that any band has ever written sounds like Strawberry Fields Forever. No one has ever made a song that sounds like it. It's completely unique, even in the Beatles catalog. It's
I know
incredible.
not even Brian Wilson came close to
No,
that.
no, nobody made a song that sounds like that with the mellotron effect and the arrangement and the double tracking and the backtrack and the speed changes, all the ancient technology they had to do to create that song and to make it so unique, even within the Beatles catalog, is still astounding to me after all these years.
I know what you mean, my brother. And so there you have it, folks. The answer is cranberry sauce. And now
Yeah.
Richard has a question for me.
Okay. This is just a pretty broad question, but I mean it might be something that you want to share with your fans. If you could go back to a certain age in your life, what would it be and why?
I would like to be 15 years old again. The year was 1986. That was the first year that I experienced a summertime that was distinctly different from other summers, in the sense that I was doing work as a counselor in training at one of the summer day camps on Long Island. And it gave me an opportunity to really branch out and meet some other folks outside of the village of East Rockaway, where I was living at the time. So I had a chance to meet a lot of cool folks from Oceanside and Franklin Square and other parts of Nassau County on Long Island. And it was a nice way to branch out a bit, create some new friendships, and forge some new bonds, some of whom I'm still in contact with today, which is it's wonderful to be able to go back all this time and see that I'm still in contact with a bunch of folks from the summer of 1986, and many of whom are friends of mine still even on just social media today. So also, plus, who wouldn't want to be 15 years old again? I mean, come on,
That's
right?
true.
Your
What
body
was
can
some of your
take a
favorite
beating. You could stay up
what
late to watch the sunrise. No big deal. Underage
what was some
drinking.
what
No
was some
big
of your
deal.
favorite bands, Timmy? What were some of your favorite bands back
In
then?
what? In 1986?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. In
To give me just
1986.
just a couple.
Well, just a couple from 1986.
Well, they
Uh,
didn't come out in '86. So what were you listening to in 1986?
well, let's see. What was I listening to a lot in 1986? I was listening to a lot of popular music. Anything that was hot on MTV at the time would be a gateway for me in terms of determining what I would listen to. So I'd be listening to a lot of music by The Police, music by Peter Gabriel, music by Genesis, music by Van Hagar. And
Yeah.
I distinctly remember it took some getting used to get into the Van Halen music without David Lee Roth being around.
Yeah,
Um,
I think everybody felt that.
yeah, that was 1986 for me. The 5150 LP, and getting used to that strange amalgamation of all of a sudden now there's Sammy Hagar playing with those guys. And by the way, just as an aside, it's sad that there still hasn't been a proper star-studded tribute concert for Eddie Van Halen. I mean, it's
Yeah,
already been 2.5 years now,
yeah, and
and
and there hasn't been one for Neil either. Neil from Rush. He
and there
hasn't.
hasn't been one for him, and we just had one for Jeff Beck, which was kind of nice and all, but I would like to see one for Eddie and for Neil, now that you
Yeah,
mention it too. So I hope I answered your question.
you did. Thank you, Tim.
Excellent, because this now brings me to my last question for you during this segment.
Okay.
Just as a reminder for our listeners and viewers out there in the internet world, this segment is called More Than You Should Know About Your Hosts. And now you're really going to find out more than you should know about Richard Woods. I hope you're
And I
ready,
want
Ed.
to preface this by saying I do not know what question Tim is going to be asking me, so you may be finding something uncomfortably revealed. We'll find out.
Question.
Okay.
Which U.S. state have you never visited that you would very much like to visit, and why?
Okay. You've given me another question, which is right in my wheelhouse for having a quick answer to. The answer to that is Wyoming.
Very nice. Is that
So
what? Is that
that's
because you want to visit Jackson Hole?
yes, and Reggie Jackson's other hole, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it depends.
Okay, now why Wyoming? Is it because it
Well,
starts with the letters WY and that kind of sounds like why?
like why do you want to live there? No, actually, you know what it is? I've always been a real mountain person. Like those things that say, what would you rather do? Go to the beach, go to the mountains, go here. I always wanted to go to the mountains. I always wanted to go to the woods, with rivers and streams and lakes in your yard. I've always loved that idea of just camping as a kid when you were in the Boy Scouts and stuff like
Don't
that.
forget the babbling brooks.
Yeah, well, they do talk a lot. That's why you got to be careful around them because they spread rumors about you to the river, and then you're in trouble. But
Just
it's
safety first.
safety safety valve. Uh, but Wyoming because it's so beautiful. The country is fantastic. You've seen the pictures. If people
Who
don't
can
know
argue
about
with
it,
the
check
great
it out.
outdoors, right?
Great outdoors. Not like in the real populated areas where a lot of the Hollywood people are now moving to get away from Hollywood and their weirdo lives. I just want to go there because there's so much untouched nature that's still there. And if I could retire one day, I'd like to retire in Wyoming. So there's your answer.
That sounds like a very good response. Wyoming is a state that I'd love to visit myself too. I've never even been to that northwestern quadrant of the United States, really.
Yep, me neither.
That would be cool to see someday. And alrighty then. Well, that was a wonderful segment. And unless you have another question for me, we can roll on into the next segment. But do you have another question for me?
I do. Would you like me to give you one more and then move on, or save it for next week?
Let's have it. Come on, what do you got?
Okay. Now, people of a certain age know that Timothy Connolly has actually not just been a great performer of other people's music and compositions, but he has also been a very prolific songwriter himself. So, my question to you, Tim, is in all the songs you wrote over the years, what are some of your favorites you've written?
Oh boy. I like the way you phrased that question. What are some of my favorites?
Well, I'm not going
That's
to nail
good.
you down to one
That's
because that
good.
would
That's
be
what I mean.
impossible
That's what
to
I mean.
from
Thank you.
one fellow songwriter to another. I would never do that to you
Oh,
because that's
no, no.
impossible.
No, thank
You're
you.
all like your children. Some you don't talk to anymore, but you still might love them in some way.
I know what you mean. Okay. Well, I'm going to do my best to answer this. I'll give you I'll give you two songs,
Okay.
both from the Suck It Easy Band era.
Okay.
Okay. The first song is a song called Righteous. Now, it's not spelled how you might think it would be spelled, starting with the letter R. Our spelling of the word for this song starts with the letter W, and when all spelled out, it's righteous, WRIGHT. Eous. Did I spell it right? I think maybe I
Sounds
did.
pretty close.
Sounds close enough.
And there's
Anyway,
a
it was
cool story behind this, I bet, Tim. Wink, wink.
yeah. There's always a story. This song was created for a concept album of ours that we recorded at their studios called The Air Age, and it was a concept album chronicling the early years of manned aviation. And this was a song about Orville and Wilbur Wright, who in the very early 1900s created an airplane and are generally believed to be the first Americans to take flight in an airplane that they built themselves. um, the song was recorded at their studios in Deer Park, and it was recorded, I want to say, 2012, going into 2013, right around then. 2013. Wow. So this will be the 10th anniversary of those recordings. This has been a strange episode, Richard, involving
It,
milestone
listen, and
anniversaries.
it is totally non-planned. This is completely coincidental. I
Yeah,
promise you.
that is true. The song was very nice, and it featured Paul Weiss on piano, and on guitars we had Russell Rogers and Johnny Cola. On drums we had Greg Frasina. On bass it was Mike Epstein, and on vocals it was myself. That was it. None of the other bells and whistles or other vocalists or other folks that
Yep.
we generally had involved. Um, and when we first heard the playback from the song, our piano player Paul Weiss turned to me and said, "Was that your Peter Gabriel moment?" And he was referring to my opening with vocals. I don't start singing until well after a minute into the song. It's a rather long instrumental intro. And then when I finally do come in, it's almost as if I do channel Peter Gabriel in a sense. I didn't realize it at the time, but Paul Weiss was on the money when he said that. Now every time I listen to that song, Righteous, again, these days, my first thought is going back to what Paul said when we were listening to the first playback of the takes. And we ended up keeping the first take, and that went on the album. So
Wow.
that's one original composition. Um, another original that is a favorite of mine from the Suck It Easy band is a song that we did from a truck rock album. We did an album of original music inspired by the good old truck driving days of the 1970s when CB
Yes.
radios were all the rage.
Convo.
Um, a moment quite unlike any other in American culture. Um, one song on that album we did was a song called Breakless. Breakless was the first song on the album, and it's a song told from the first person point of view of a truck driver being out on the road doing these long hauls, starting out in Virginia, going down to Texas, and then back on to wherever he goes next. And all he can think about is this woman he loves who he's away from and separated from. All these miles apart on the road is hard for him. So he
Yep.
uses the lyrics of the song to sort of heal himself in a way. As as the lyrics are sung for the listener of the song, it's sung from the standpoint of the truck driver, and it's by no means a happy song. By the time the bridge rolls around, listeners are probably already reaching for the tissues, but but
As
it's
long
it's
as he didn't roll off the bridge when he was driving his truck, I think he'd probably be all right in the end, though.
no, he did not drive off the bridge, but he did get pulled over by the police in the song.
Uh-oh.
So it's not the happiest of songs, but
No.
listen, not a lot of truck driving music is happy music.
What
Those
about
guys
Eastbound and Down? That was a
guys who
happy.
do that, well, eastbound and down, that's one of the rare exceptions.
There you
But
go.
most of the time, those long haul truck drivers who go out on over the road,
Oh
they
yeah.
don't tend to generally live very happy lives. But they look forward to the times when they're off the road, and even some bands who go out on tour a lot, they look forward to being off the road from the tours. Everybody needs a break.
Yep. It's
You're going to
true.
burn out if you're a musician and you're on the road so much, you're going to burn out from performing. And if you're a truck driver and you're on the road so much, you're going to burn out emotionally. So the song Breakless was a real special song for me as a songwriter. And I wish I could still tap into those old muses that allowed me to create that original music back then at that time.
Yeah.
But I'm still glad that I had the inspiration that I did at the time, and my health was pretty poor in those days, and that I was able to muster any inspiration at all was a bit of a marvel. And we captured all of that on recordings, and that ended up being on our album called Truck Rock, which was released in I think 2015, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
That's right.
Um, so there's a couple for you,
Yeah.
Righteous
Thank you, Tim.
and
I think
Breathless.
you've enlightened a lot of our friends and fans and other assorted people about the inner workings of the mind of Timothy Connolly.
Well, yes, thank you. And you the same as well. And I
Yeah.
thank all of our listeners out there for enjoying our segment known only as More Than You Should Know about your hosts. And oh, wow. Richard, you're not going to believe this.
What's up?
This is our pilot episode, and we're
Yeah.
already getting listener mail by email. I can't believe this.
Really?
Yeah.
You ever seen the Mr. Show episode where he does the pre-taped call-in show?
Was that the show that had David Cross in it
Yes, and Bob Odenkirk.
and
And
Bob
David
Odenkirk?
Cross is doing an episode called the pre-taped call-in show. So people that are calling into the show every week, the show has been pre-recorded. So when they're calling in, they're watching a show that has already taken place, and they keep calling in with the wrong topics for the episode because it was never filmed before.
That's
So the
brilliant.
guy, so he's talking about the elderly, and then he's like, "Well, my cat has a problem going to the bathroom." It's like, no, that was last week's episode. This week we're talking about the elderly. And as he keeps talking, he keeps going back, and then he has an old tube TV, and he keeps turning back in time to each individual episode. And in each one, he has more and more hair on his head. In the first episode, he has a full head of hair. By the fourth episode, he's completely bald. It's absolutely hilarious. Mr. Show pre-taped call-in show. Look it up on YouTube. Laugh your asses off. I promise it will be worth the wait. I
I'm going
promise.
to find it, and I'm going to try my best to make sure I'm not drinking a glass of milk while I watch it.
Well, yes, milk was a bad choice in that case. Yes.
I can't be, spitting milk all over the place because I'm
No,
laughing so
no, no,
much.
not at the prices of milk these days.
Nope,
For sure.
nope, nope. Well, now let's take a look at some of this listener mail here because I think at the very least, since we're starting to get listener mail all of a sudden, and this is weird since
All of a
we're
sudden.
just taping a pilot episode right here, right now, but why don't we react to a couple of these? I see one that right now we can just whip out right now. In fact, this one is from Scotty Beam in Cincinnati, Ohio, and
Okay.
Scotty writes, the best captain of the Starship Enterprise was Captain Kirk, and I'm tired of people pretending Captain Picard was the best. What
Yeah.
can I do about this? Interesting
Well,
question from Scotty. What do you
well, I
say,
mean,
Richard?
he's absolutely 100% correct, first of all, because they call it TOS, the original series, but it is just Star Trek because they made all these things afterwards. It's still the original, and it's
Of
still the
course.
best,
Of
and
course.
he's still the best. And everybody that knows me knows that I love Shatner and all of his formations and all the shows he's done and all the stuff he's over the years he's done. So for me, yes, there, Captain Kirk is the true only captain of the Enterprise. And what
That's
we
right.
can do about it is to get the gospel out, man. Get some of those things, show people clips, show them like a Mirror Mirror episode and some of the other ones where
And the
it's just,
Frank Gorshin episode.
well, of course, yes,
I forget the name
Malachi.
of that episode. What's that one called? Do you
Uh,
remember?
I think it is Let This Be Your Last Battlefield. I think is the name of that episode.
Okay.
I could be wrong though. I could look it up now, make sure.
Well, we can always rely on our helpful listeners and viewers out there. Just
Yeah,
drop a
I
comment
think
below
I
here in
think it
the
is Let
YouTube
This Be Your
comment.
Last Battlefield.
In the
And
comment
yes,
section
Frank
here on
Gorshin.
YouTube, go ahead and hook us up with the info.
Yeah,
Enlighten us.
Frank Gorshin, yes, was in that episode. Absolutely. And there he is. Oh no, look at him. Oh, there's 11 Gorshins behind me. 11 Gorshins. You said the magic word, Kim. Gorshin. And
There
you've
should be
triggered the
11.
there it
Look what
is.
just got
See?
triggered. There it
One,
is.
two,
There they
three,
are.
four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 Gorshins. And
12.
there's the 12th Gorshin. Yeah, he was the one that was left off the show because he was dressed in a green outfit like the Riddler. Did you
And
also
that picture
know?
was taken, by the way, when he was still the Riddler before he was replaced by John Aston. And by the way, those the replacement circumstances are still a little too mysterious for me
Yeah.
to
Did
entirely
you also
understand.
know
But
something very cool? That the first Batman, Adam West Batman episode, he was the guest villain in the first episode, was Frank Gorshin as the Riddler.
son of a gun, I did not know
Yeah.
that.
There's a little factoid for you, you bat
Thank you.
people out there.
I suddenly feel smarter.
Yeah. So yeah, just show them all the great clips of the original Star Trek series,
That's a
and
great response to
so you
Scotty's
need to
letter.
go nowhere else but to the original Bible of these first 78 episodes. You got to go no further.
Well, there you go, Scotty. I hope we answered your letter for you. That's exactly what you can go ahead and do about that. Richard said it best, and I have nothing more to add. Although
You know,
I will say that James Kirk was not the only captain of the Enterprise in the original series.
he
There
wasn't.
was also Captain Pike, but
That's right.
nobody
But
really
but he
talks
didn't
about
test.
that.
He didn't test so well with the audience, so he got
I know,
recast.
I know.
That's
Uh,
that's how we have him in the Trek canon, but it was only because of they wanted somebody else, and they got Bill Shatner, and it was the right choice.
Jack Lord didn't. Jack
Jack
Lord
Lord
just
was
couldn't make it
also in the
happen.
running to be the captain of the Enterprise, but
That's right.
he wanted a lot of money, and he wanted a piece of the show. I believe was the answer to him not doing it. He wanted a piece of the show, like in the production end of it, and they're like, "No, you're not getting any of that." He's like, "All right." And then 2 years later, he did Hawaii Five O, and the rest is history with that.
Yeah, good for him.
You know, Jim, I'm looking through the mailbag here, and I'm seeing something that this is insane because you're from Long Island and you're from the New
Yes,
York area.
yes.
And a guy named Joey Salami from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, he writes, when a driver keeps their left blinker on for more than 200 feet on the highway in the left lane, should they make a left into the divider?
Isn't it amazing that we would receive letters like this as if people think we're some sorts of experts on topics like this?
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
true.
happen to have a lot of experience in these sorts of things. Well, in
Yeah.
my expert opinion, as it
Well,
were,
there's only one way for you to have an opinion, Tim, and that's an expert opinion, even if you have no idea what you're talking about, which is most of the time.
I think, in all honesty, they should just turn off their left blinker.
You think it's that
Ingenious,
easy?
right? Isn't that ingenious?
But if they've left it on, like say the radio is blaring and listening to some some Shakira music and just bopping out and dancing in the front seat and just
Maybe they're
not
listening
paying
to
attention.
5150.
They could be listening to the keyboard drenched 5150 album and saying, wow, why is there so many keyboards on this? And really pontificating in their own mind and contemplating the reason for that and just sitting there with the left blinker on. Just over and over and over again. They obviously don't even know it's on, Tim. I think this as soon as they notice it's on, just hang that hard left right into the wall, man. I mean, you're going to be making somebody's YouTube very famous for doing it. I'm telling you right now.
I will defer to your infinite wisdom in this topic, and I hope that Joey Salami got the answer he was hoping for there.
Joey, you're the best. I'm coming down to Bensonhurst. We'll have a pie together. It'll be fantastic. Oh,
Thanks, Joey. And we should take a moment to let all of our listeners and viewers know that if you would like to, of course, send in any questions or comments or complaints or recipes or whatever the
yeah.
case might be,
Complaints are
please
more
send
most
it on in
important.
to us by email.
Yes. Tim, do you want to
Gorshin's11.
tell them the email address they should write you to or write us
Of
to?
course. Yep. Gorshin's11 appears on the Sunny Calzone channel on YouTube. You can send any letters and emails to sunnycalzone@gmail.com. Just put Gorshin's11 in the subject of your email, and of course, include in the body of your email your letter for us. And if you are lucky or unlucky, however you want to see it, we will
Oh,
be opening your mail right here on Gorshin's 11 and reacting to it the only way that we can.
yes,
And
this is true.
thank
And
you
the only
very
way we
much.
can do it is to probably be wrong, but we're going to try our best to not break that record also.
We will try. And moving on, we now arrive at a fun segment called Cooking Talk.
Ah,
Now,
yeah,
cooking. I love to cook. Richard loves to cook.
we do.
And we're going to use this segment to talk about cooking. Of course, we should, because the name of the segment. It's called Cooking Talk. Okay. I recently went to my local Trader Joe's supermarket and I picked up for the very first time some chicken sausages. Um, they have, I think, a spicy kind and a sweet kind. I picked up some of the sweet kind, and with these being chicken sausage, I must say this is going to be my first time ever cooking chicken sausage before. So I'm gonna try busting out the old George Foreman grill and
There you go.
cooking up some sausages on the grill there, and then once that's done, try to put them on some nice fresh French baguette bread and with a little balsamic vinegar. And I don't even need peppers and onions. I don't, it's amazing to me. I used to be a sausage and peppers guy when I was a lot
Oh yeah.
younger, but these
I
days,
still am. I still make a mean sausage and peppers.
I bet you do, and I
Yeah.
bet you still are.
Yeah.
In fact, that reminds me, right now, this is San Gennaro Feast Week in Las Vegas, and runs now until the end of Sunday night. So I have all this time to go and enjoy all the sausage and peppers that I could ever want.
And get you some Zeppelis.
Yes,
Gotta
with
get
just
the
the right
Zeppelis.
amount of powdered sugar.
Oh yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sure that'll work wonders for me. Um,
Listen, even you can cheat once in a while to
I
enjoy
know,
some great memories of food,
and
even
I
in a
do,
small amount.
and I do. My weight is down in a good place,
Oh, it's very good.
and
You look wonderful.
but I can enjoy the occasional bag of Zeppelis, and I do plan to treat myself to that at some point. But at any rate, for these chicken sausages that I
Yeah.
picked up from Trader Joe's, I already have some idea as to how I want to prepare them after I cook them, in terms of, making sandwiches with balsamic vinegar and all that,
Yeah.
nice fresh French bread. But uh, what would you recommend to me in terms of how I could perhaps prepare freshly cooked chicken sausages from Trader Joe's?
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these are the ones that are already pre-cooked, right? You just got
No,
to heat them.
no,
These aren't. These are the ones where you have to cook them through.
these are the ones where I have to cook them through. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So with the George Foreman grill, you got to be real careful with that first of all, because sausages, like if you get fresh Italian sausage from the butcher or even from the supermarket, premium sausage, that's all raw inside. And if
Yeah.
this is a raw sausage inside, you got to be real careful to cook it completely through, because chicken and pork do not like to be cooked not through. They will make you sick. So a lot of times what I do with fresh sausage, as a little clue to you people that might not know this, if you take a skillet and you put a little about I don't know, half an inch of water in it, and you take the raw sausage and you put it in the skillet, you put it on at about 5.5, 6 on your flame, and then you put a lid on it, and you're actually going to cook the sausage a little bit to get the inside tender and cooked before you start grilling it, because that way you're 100% sure it's cooked through, and you're not going to poison yourself or have an undone piece where you're like, oh, now I got to put it back in the microwave or something to cook it through. So I do that. I brown, and then I brown them up, and then I'll serve them in my sausage and peppers. A lot of times, what I do too, which is really cool, especially with sausage and peppers, when you're doing this, if you know about sausage, the casing, right?
Right.
It keeps all the flavor inside, which is great. But sometimes when you're adding sausage to a meal and you don't want to necessarily keep all the flavor of the sausage inside, what I do is when I'm cooking them for a bit, I'll then take them off when they're almost completely cooked through. I'll take them out of the skillet. I'll cut them with a knife down the middle and butterfly them open, and then fry them face down to get nice char on the actual sausage itself. So it blends it into the onions or the garlic or whatever you're making it in. Then you throw it in there
Mm,
and you get a little more flavor in the vegetables as well, which is cool.
that
So
is
if
cool.
I was making it, if you were going to use the grill like the George Foreman grill, I would recommend parboiling them, par cooking them a little bit to make sure the insides get done. Then finish them on the grill, get a nice good sear on them so they look great. And then you can do a lot of things with it. I know you're more of a healthy guy now these days with your food choices. Yeah, you can definitely put it, just on a nice roll, with some balsamic vinaigrette, like you said, or a reduction of some sort. You can hockey puck them up and make them into little chips. You can add them to
Oh
make
yeah.
an Italian salad, with some fresh greens and a little provolone, shredded on top. It's freshly grated provolone. Get you
Mm,
some nice flavor to it, and then you can add a little bit of Italian dressing of your choice. And of course, you could just make a straight up sausage and peppers. What I like to do, which is really good. A lot of times when you go to even like a feast or a fair, the peppers they aren't the sausage and peppers, the peppers and onions aren't cooked a lot because the turnover is so great. So I like to sweat them out a little bit and get them a little bit more tender in some olive oil so they get a really nice sautéed flavor to them before I put them on and put a little extra, salt and pepper obviously in there, and then saute them down a little bit, and then add the sausages to the mix. I butterfly them open, put them in, saute them up, then get a nice piece of Italian bread from the local Italian bakery around here. And my wife says they're the best, so she's half Italian, so what can I tell you? She knows.
Chef's kiss. We're
That's
learning a
it.
lot here.
So
Well,
if I was going to make sausage, if I was going to make that sausage, that's the way I would do it. There's two good ways I would think of doing it right off the top of my head.
very educational. And not just for me, but also for all of our listeners and viewers out there as well. So thank you very much for that.
Yes,
And
write me for the recipe. I'll even put it on paper if somebody really wants to know how I do it. I'll show you my patented recipe, which I've never shared with anyone ever.
well,
So
how
there's that.
generous of you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And so since this is still the Cooking Talk segment,
Yeah.
what did you recently cook?
What have I recently made? I made a homemade chow mai fun Chinese
Hmm.
food.
Nice.
I've gotten pretty good about Chinese stir fry. I got a wok for Christmas from
Oh,
the
nice. I
wife.
have a wok myself. Those are awesome.
So I like to walk things up. So and we have a lot of Asian supermarkets around my town where you can get really
Cool.
good fresh ingredients and you can get the real rice vermicelli noodles that they use in the Chinese restaurants. You can buy them locally around here. So I got some of those, and I made a shrimp chow mai fun from homemade from scratch, and it was absolutely delicious. I nailed
Very
it. I was
nice.
so I was so impressed. The first time I made it like about 6 months ago, it wasn't nearly as good. I didn't cook the noodles enough. They say you're just supposed to like put them in like warm water for like 8 minutes and then they're cooked. It doesn't work that way. You do have to boil them a little bit in boiling water, but you got to keep tasting them like every 30 seconds because they're so thin that if you cook them too long, you're going to get, your al dente is out the window. So Italian saying it's out the window. You got to cook them just to where they get to be a little bit of a pop when you pull them and the mouthfeel is correct and take them quickly out of the water. And you don't want to cook them the whole way through anyway because you want to put them into the big wok with all your ingredients and get them all soaked up. You want to use a little bit of sesame oil. I put in for flavor. You don't cook it in sesame oil. It's way too powerful. You wouldn't taste anything else. A little touch of sesame oil, about half a teaspoon of that in there. You can use. I put sometimes a little bit of teriyaki or uh, or or soy sauce to make the noodles get that brown color. That's how
Hmm.
they get them. They're white when you cook them. They add into some little bit of sauce to get some flavor into them, and then a couple of veggies you might like. You can add some broccoli. We usually put. My daughter loves broccoli, so we put broccoli in a lot of dishes. Cauliflower. You can put snow peas. The long snow pea pouches. Those are cool and make your own stuff, man. And what I always tell my daughter, who's 7 now, I say, never be afraid to fail and try something new because you're going to learn something from the experience and you'll do it better next time. That's all.
That's right. And, it's been said that if you're not failing, it means that you're not trying, right?
That's right. That's true. I
And
always say experience is the best teacher.
I say that a lot myself. And well, that was very educational and enlightening. And I think now we are ready for our next segment, which is called,
Okay.
this next segment is called Get a Grip.
Oh,
And all right,
don't get
so
me started already, Tim, because I'm about to go off. You know who liked
um,
to go off? Spoiler Stan, the movie man. He went off a lot, just like this, Tim, didn't he?
well,
Didn't he?
don't go too off the rails now.
Oh,
I do know that during this segment, there is one thing that I have to get off my chest. Absolutely, I am in complete denial about Marvel Studios and their casting of Adam Driver in the role of Reed Richards for their
yeah.
upcoming Fantastic Four film. Now, this might not seem like all that big of a big deal to you or to those who are listening, but to me, it's a big deal. And it also trips me out that Denzel Washington was offered the role of Galactus and he refused it. What's that about?
Well,
How can anybody
yeah,
in their right minds be offered that plum
especially
role?
the biggest and best of all the baddies there ever was, Galactus, the
I
planet
know,
killer.
I know. And according to Marvel Comics lore, the very first living being in the 616, meaning the Marvel Universe.
Right.
Um, and but so Denzel said no, and now there's talk that Antonio Banderas might be Galactus. So we'll see. But it's weird, this whole Hollywood rumor mill. You never know really from one day to the next. But anyway, that's something I'm in denial about. Um, what do you have to say about this? Is there anything you can chime
Well,
in on this with?
well, there's 2 points, and anybody that follows any of the Marvel Universe films knows that every single one of the Fantastic Four movies has not done well. They've all failed to a certain degree. Every single one of them. They're all second rate or third, fourth rate Marvel films. You put them up against the original Spider-Mans, you put them against the Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. Those are all great films everybody loves. When Fantastic Four comes around, they clunk at the box office. So maybe trying to put Adam Driver, they maybe think that people want to see him in this role. It's the only thing I can think of, trying to reboot it again for the fourth time, or maybe even fifth. I'm not sure. Some of you people will chime in on the YouTube page if I'm incorrect, but I think it's at least the fourth time they're trying to reboot the Fantastic Four, and it's failed every time before this. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work this time either. I don't. If you failed 3 times in something, trying the fourth usually means you're probably going to fail again. So I don't think the movie's going to do much anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but none of the ones before it have. So I don't think you need to be too concerned. I don't think it's going to do that great to begin with.
Yep, I suspect you're right. You know what they say, the fourth or fifth time is the charm. Wait a minute,
Yeah,
they don't say that.
I don't think anybody's ever said that. Only someone that's failed that many times that's in denial, like one of those American Idol rejects that got to TV because they couldn't sing and they got on the broadcast because of that purpose, that thinks that they're fantastic in some way, shape, or form.
All
Those are
things
the people that probably like the second Fantastic Four movie.
okay. Well, now keep it. All things being all things being I'm sorry. I'll try to say this again.
You
All
could
things
try, but I don't know if
being
you're going to be able to
equal.
succeed.
There we
Try,
go.
try again, team. Tim, the sixth time is the charm of you trying to get this out. So keep
That's
that in
right.
mind.
And if I fail, it just means I'm not trying. All things being equal, this is the
Yes.
first time Marvel Studios is
Yeah.
doing a Fantastic Four. So I guess, of course, we've got to, of course, give them some slack with regards to that.
Well,
Uh,
did you see Morbius? No, no one else did either. So don't worry about it.
no, I haven't seen that, and I'm
Yeah,
not interested
exactly.
in
So
seeing
so
that.
even the vaunted Marvel Studios, they will throw duds also like
Right,
Morbius, which was terrible.
right.
No, you know what the problem is? Fantastic Four is at least a big name. No one of a younger generation even knows who Morbius was. He was a minor '70s comic character that nobody even knew who he was. So to make a feature film around him, I don't care who's starring in it. You're going to be very hard pressed to sell it. Just saying, well, it's Marvel Studios. We're just going to throw our stuff on the table and say, well, here it is. Watch it because we made it. Has been proven that is not the case. So I
If
don't
he
I
was
don't
a
know.
minor character, would somebody got in trouble if they tried to serve him liquor?
Yeah, especially if he was a coal miner. Yeah,
I
because
see.
because then he would be 7 years old, getting black lung and dying in a mine somewhere, and then Marvel would be totally screwed.
Okay, but if he was a minor 2049er, I guess that means
Yeah.
that he wouldn't be born yet, technically, right?
No, that's true. He would probably be an 8-bit pixeled character that the younger generation would think it was a block carrying around some garbage or something. I'm not quite sure.
He it could also be me, just, waiting for me to pop my clogs so that I can get
It's true.
resurrected as this next other person.
It's true.
But
The fact that you said "pop my clogs," 99% of the people in the audience do not know what the hell that means. So kudos for you, Tim.
well, kudos to me. Thank you. I I won't take credit for that though. Of course, that's a British slang term that sometimes gets thrown around on the other
It's a
side of the
cockney
pond.
thing we might say. All right, Timmy? Yeah, it
That's
can
right.
talk like this if we want. We can go right down to the pub and have a couple of pints. What do you say?
Well, now your British accent is much better than mine. In fact, I've just gone
Well,
in an Australian direction, so never
you
mind
watch
me.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels enough times, you get this down right away. I'm telling you, anybody can do it. You just got to go to the right reference material, man.
Well, that's like saying Sean Connery could have really pulled off a Russian accent if he tried in Hunt for Red
No,
October, but guess
no,
what? He didn't try.
no, no, he
Oh well.
didn't.
And the rest of us have to live with it. That's all right.
One of my favorite accents is when Winona Ryder is trying to be British in the Dracula movie. That's a laugh fest.
Well, there's a bunch of silliness for you right there also.
Oh my God.
The
Gary Oldman is
director is
like, what am I
partially to
doing with these
blame.
clowns?
I forget who directed Hunt for Red October, but I think the director for Bram Stoker's Dracula was, oh God, no. I know it. I know if I say Tim Burton, I'm going to be told that it's wrong. Um, I don't
How about
remember
Tim
who
Connolly?
directed that. What I don't. Former NHL player? No, I don't think it was him.
Yes. You
No, I don't
sure?
think it was
Because I,
him.
I heard it was him.
I'm not too sure of anything anymore, quite honestly. But one thing I am sure of is that we are past our time limit here for our
Ah,
pilot episode of Gorshin's 11. So I will take a step back and on behalf of Richard Woods and myself and everyone here at
peace.
Gorshin's 11, we thank you for joining us and drop us a line by email if you'd like to send us some listener mail. Just write it
Yeah,
to
or you can.
sunnycalzone@gmail.com
That's
or
right.
just leave a comment right below here on the YouTube at the Sunny Calzone YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Richard,
Absolutely.
I'll see you
Thank you,
soon.
guys. Tim
Thank
will be
you.
back again with some more viewer mail,
That's right.
some more idiocy, and some more knowledge that maybe people might want to know about. And like Spoiler Stan said, I'll see you next week. Jack off.
Until then,
See ya.
adios.